talked about the trig functions. And then Tuesday, I started topic E. Are you guys staying caught up? Are you working on the day you're not here? Okay. I didn't think I'd have to preach to you guys, but I'm trying to make sure everybody's staying caught up. On like Wednesday, when we have everybody online, I will post in Classroom and tell you what we're covering. If there's a video, I usually post the link right there. On the other days, the days that half the class is here and half isn't, I am not going in and posting the YouTube. I am expecting you guys to get it yourself. Do you all remember? We've been through this probably 3 or 4 times, but do you remember where to go to see those videos? You go to classwork, and then class documents, there's the YouTube. So every day, if I don't post anything in Classroom, go here. It's dated, it tells you September 1st, that's the day you weren't here. There's the video, it has the homework, it has everything there. So please, check every day you're not in class. You are still responsible, so go watch what we covered that day. All right, we are working on, transformations, and I believe this is where we left off. I did a domain example and then we kind of stopped. So I want to talk a little bit about compositions today. We've done these before, this is review, but I know we sometimes forget things, so let's go through it anyway. If I want F composed with G, that's the same way as saying I want F of G of X. So you start on the inside. What is G of X? We have to go to F and plug that in. So it's X minus 3 squared. How do you square a parenthesis like that? FOIL. It means there's 2 of them. So if you were to write it twice and FOIL it out, you get X squared minus 6X plus 9. Okay, is G composed with F? What changes? Order matters with the composition. So this time you have to plug in F. We're doing G of F of X. So F is X squared. So you go to G and you replace your X with an X squared. So we get X squared minus 3. Do you guys remember doing those? Let's do them more compositions, but I'm going to represent it differently. So I'm giving you a table. Do you guys want a second to copy that in your notes? Some of you like to write everything down. So I'll give you a second to copy that down. So when I say F of G of 1, G of 1 says my X is 1, find your Y. So when X is 1, my G is 6. So now we have to do F of 6. So when my X is 6, F is 5. B. If I do G of F of 1. So X is 1, I need to find F, which is 3. So now I need G of 3. So when X is 3, G is 2. You guys take a minute and try the rest of it. Okay. C, f of 1. So f of 1 is 3. Next is 3. We want f again, so we get 4. D, G of 1. So when x is 1, G is 6. When x is 6, we want G again, and that is 3. E, which just means G of f of 3. So when x is 3, f is 4. When x is 4, G is 1. F, I'm asking for f of G of 6. When x is 6, G is 3. When x is 3, f is 4. You guys do okay on those? And we could do the same thing from a graph. You would just be looking for ordered pairs. So if I said, f of 6, you would go to when x was 6 and tell me what the y value is there. Do I need to do a graph, or do you understand what that means? So when you evaluate the function, you're telling me the y. I'm giving you the x, you tell me the y. All right. I did a couple compositions for you. Why don't you guys do each of those compositions for me? Make sure we've got that before I move on. So G composed with f. So your f is 3x minus 1. You have to put that into G. Every x gets replaced with that. So when I say to square 3x minus 1, what do we have to do? FOIL it. Think about writing it twice and foiling. So you would get 9x squared minus 6x plus 1. Here you need to distribute the negative 4. So that's a negative 12x plus 4 plus 5. We distribute the negative 2. And then just add like terms. So negative 18x squared. My 12x's drop. And then plus 7. You guys get that? B. F composed with G. So G is the square root of x plus 6. If you plug that into F, you get the square root of x plus 6 squared plus 4. A square root and a square drop. So you have x plus 6 plus 4, or x plus 10. Any questions on those? The last piece with these compositions, well, maybe not the last piece, next to last. I want to make sure you know how to find the domain of those things. So let's say f of x is the square root of x. And g of x is 2 minus x. For the domain, it's easiest to find the composition first. So when I want f composed with f, that's f of the square root of x If I put the square root of x back into f, I get the square root of the square root of x. It's been a while. What's another way you could rewrite a square root of a square root? You remember? Yeah, you could also call that the fourth root. You just multiply these indexes. So a 2 and a 2 gives you 4. If it was like the cube root of a fifth root, it would be the 15th root. Okay, when we talked about these domains last year, I told you that you had to look 2 places for your domain. You have to look at the first thing you plugged in and your final answer. We have to take both of those and put them together to get the overall domain. Now here, they're pretty similar, so that it's not going to be too different. If it's an even radical, we've already said the thing underneath has to be greater than or equal to 0. So that's true for the square root. Same thing is true for this fourth root. So if I put those together, they're identical. I know my overall domain, x has to be greater than or equal to 0. We need to write it in interval notation, so that's a bracket on the 0, comma, infinity. Right. B. G composed with F. So that's G of f of x. F was the square root of x. If you plug that into G, you get the square root of 2 minus the square root of x. Now here, can I make that a fourth root? No, because this 2 is under the radical. So this would be the only way to write that answer. For my domain, we look 2 places. Right here, the first thing you plugged in. So because it was under a square root, we know the thing underneath, which was x, is greater than or equal to 0. And we have to look right here. The thing under my radical is greater than or equal to 0. What would I do here? Square. So that tells me x is less than or equal to 4. So, 2 things have to happen. X has to be greater than or equal to 0, but less than or equal to 4. So the first one is saying all of these work. The second one is saying all of these work. You can only take the overlap. So my domain is everything between 0 and 4. So if I ask for the domain of a composition, you look at the first thing you plugged in and your final answer. Find those 2 domains, just like we've done on all of our other domain problems, and then put them together. Find the overlap. Find the numbers that make both true. Are there any questions on that one? You can compose more than 2 functions. We can do as many as we want. I put 3 up here for us to try. So we just start on the outside and work our way in. This is f of g of h. Okay, so starting on the inside. Very inside is h of x, so that is the first thing. H of x is x plus 3. Then you just work your way out. So next I do g of x plus 3. So I go to g, I plug in my x plus 3, and I get x plus 3 to the 10th. Working my way out, now I plug that into f. So every x gets replaced with that, so I get an x plus 3 to the 10th over x plus 3 to the 10th plus 1. Do we need to do any more with multiple compositions like that? Good with that? Remember doing that before? Let's go backwards. So my answer to the composition, I did a composition and I got 4 over 3x minus 4. I want you to break this down and tell me what the original functions were. Now these are the problems, we did them last year and we talked about there's not always just one right answer, so you're finding a possible answer. So what this says is f composed with g. When I did that composition, I got 4 over 3x minus 4. So I need to know what the original g of x and f of x were. Last year I told you g is like the inside. So if I'm going to plug in a 2 for my x, what's the first thing I'm going to do? If I just gave you a number and told you to evaluate it, what do you do first? Multiply by 3, subtract your 4, right? So a couple different options. You could say your g of x is that whole thing. Okay, you could also say your g of x is just 3x. That would also work. Then, if you think about a composition, you take something and you replace the x. So when we're working backwards, I think about, okay, if I took that out, that's my g, if I took it out and put an x back there, you're left with 4 over x. That's one possible answer. There are others. I usually just go for the easiest answer. How can you check those to see if you're right? Actually compose. Do f composed with g now and see if you get the original. Okay, b. So f of x is -2 absolute value of 7 minus 3x. And I want to find out the original f and g. So f composed with g is equal to this. So g is the inside. What's the inside over here? 7 minus 3x. So g of x is 7 minus 3x. F of x, if you took that all out and just replaced it with an x, you would have -2 absolute value of x. and C. This time there are three functions, f of g of h of x. And when I compose them, we got cosine squared of x plus 9. So starting on the very inside, that's my h of x. If I put in a number for x, what's the very first thing you do? You add 9. So my h is x plus 9. G. So if I took out that x plus 9 and replace it with an x, what's the next thing you would do? That's if it were like an equation and you were solving it. If I just wanted you to evaluate it. If it were like cosine of pi over 2, cosine squared pi over 2. Do you square or do you do the cosine first? Cosine. Remember with our trig functions, it's written like that, but it means you're going to take this and square the answer. So my g of x is cosine x. So f of x, if I take out that entire cosine and replace it with an x, you're left with x. Questions there? This is our stopping point for today. So let's kind of run through where we're at and where we're going from here. In just a minute, we're going to grade the handout you guys have for me and turn in your quiz. You have the topic E handout already that you have started. Now you should be able to do everything except probably the very last question, the word problem on it. Tomorrow I'm going to do the word problems. So you need to watch the video or join class for that. How do you guys feel about this section in general? Is it pretty good? You're remembering this stuff? I think so far it seems like everybody's doing pretty well with it, so I think I'm going to move on after that section. So here's what we have to talk about. I have topic F, which I'm going to spend 2 days on, which would be Tuesday and Wednesday next week. You guys will be here Tuesday. Then we're at the end of chapter 1. I would like to go ahead and do a test. Normally we do a review day before a test, like a work day for your study guide. But here's what I'd like to do. I want the test to be done in class, so I already have to take 2 days to do the test. I would like to skip the in-class work day for the study guide for this chapter while we're hybrid. Now the trade-off is the day that the other class takes their test, you just get a free day. So you have to do your study guide outside class, but you get a free day later on. Is that a fair trade? Okay. I'm assuming you guys would probably rather take your test next Thursday than wait for the following Monday. Is that a safe assumption? So I will actually finish the last topic Wednesday and your test is Thursday. That's kind of a fast turnaround, but I will get most of it taught before then. I thought I would go ahead and give you your study guides today, if that's okay. And I will post the answer key to the study guide on Classroom. I will still collect your study guide on the day of the test, like I normally do. So please use that answer key accordingly. Use it to see if you have questions so you can be asking me those. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay. So you have the rest of class right now to work on that homework, but let's grade topic B.